The old radio crackled to life in the abandoned lighthouse on the coast of Maine, precisely at 4 minutes after 2 a.m., on the 27th of September, 1967. It wasn't a broadcast from a local station, nor a message from a distant ship lost in the fog. It was a low, guttural hum, a sound that seemed to resonate from deep within the earth, a primal vibration that clawed at the edges of sanity, a sound that seemed to echo the screams of forgotten gods. The lighthouse keeper, Thomas Ashton, a man who had sought refuge from the world's relentless noise in the solitude of the sea, a man haunted by memories of a life he could no longer bear, found himself face to face with an enigma far more unsettling than the isolation he had chosen, a horror far greater than the one he had tried so hard to escape. He had arrived at the lighthouse only a few weeks prior, a replacement for the previous keeper, Mr. Elmsworth, who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a half-finished cup of cold coffee, its bitter aroma still hanging in the air, and a lingering scent of pipe tobacco, a scent that seemed to cling to the walls as if it was trying to call him back. Thomas found an old pipe still warm, as if it had been recently used. It was then that he knew that something was very wrong. Thomas, a man of science and reason, a firm believer in the laws of physics, initially dismissed the radio's strange behavior as a malfunction, the result of years of neglect and the constant battering of the sea, an old machine finally giving way to the ravages of time. He had spent his first few weeks meticulously repairing the old structure, focusing on the tangible, the mechanics of the lamp, the gears that turned the lens, hoping to forget the unsettling feeling that had taken root deep within his bones, an awareness that he was not alone in this place, a primal instinct that warned him of danger. He had replaced the broken glass in the lamp, each pane refracting the light in a way that seemed unnatural, repaired the rusty machinery, its gears grinding with a life of their own, and even cleaned the thick layers of grime from the walls, a futile attempt to erase the lingering presence of the previous keeper. But he could not shake the feeling that he was not alone in this place, that something ancient and unseen was watching him, waiting for its moment to strike, an entity that had been sleeping for centuries, now stirring from its slumber. He found the lighthouse logs old and worn, their pages brittle with age, and began to read them, hoping to find some explanation to the strange things that were happening. The records were meticulous, detailing the daily routines of the keepers, the changing weather patterns, the ebb and flow of the tides, and the ships that had passed through the fog. But as he read through the pages, he felt a sense of growing dread, a feeling that something had been intentionally left out, that there was a secret being kept within these pages. He found nothing of Mr. Elmsworth's disappearance, no mention of his name, and it was as if he had never existed at all, as if the sea had swallowed him whole, erasing his existence from the face of the earth. It was then he found a hidden entry, scrawled in a frantic hand at the end of the most recent log, the ink smudged and faded, as if written in haste, in a moment of desperation. The frequencies, they're not our own, it simply said, and a single symbol was drawn beneath the words, a symbol that seemed to writhe and shift before his very eyes, a symbol that chilled him to the very core of his being. The hum from the radio continued, its low frequency penetrating the silence of the lighthouse, resonating with something deep within Thomas, awakening a primal instinct he never knew he possessed, a connection to something ancient and terrible that he could not comprehend. He spent the next few days trying to pinpoint the source of the signal, his mind racing to find a rational explanation, adjusting the dials, tweaking the wires, but to no avail, his efforts a futile attempt to understand the forces that had been unleashed in this place. The hum persisted, a constant, unsettling drone that seemed to be both coming from the radio, an old and battered machine with its wires twisted and frayed, and originating from deep within the earth itself, as if it were a heartbeat of the planet, a constant, unwavering call to the void. It was then he started to notice other strange things, subtle occurrences that defied logic and reason, that chipped away at his sanity. The lamp, which he had meticulously cleaned and repaired, its lens gleaming under the moonlight, would flicker and dim, its beam casting eerie shadows across the walls, the darkness seeming to reach for him, trying to pull him into its embrace. The wind, which had always been a constant companion, a comforting rhythm in his lonely existence, seemed to whisper strange words, ancient incantations in a language he could not quite understand, words that felt deeply unsettling, echoing through the halls of the lighthouse. a chorus of whispers from beyond the veil. The very structure of the lighthouse seemed to groan and shift, the old stones creaking and shifting, as if it was a living entity that was slowly awakening, its form distorting and twisting, responding to a power that was both ancient and terrifying. Then, on the night of the 11th of October, 1967, at precisely 10 minutes after midnight, as the moon hung heavy and blood-red in the sky, Thomas found it. A small, wooden box, tucked away in the back of a seldom-used storage closet. Its door warped and twisted as if forced open, hidden beneath a pile of old nautical charts. Their ink faded and blurred, their edges torn and frayed. The box was made of dark, almost black wood, a material that seemed to absorb all light, intricately carved with strange symbols that seemed to writhe and shift in the dim light, as if they were alive and aware of his presence. Their shapes changing and reforming as he watched them, an ancient language he could not understand, yet somehow felt a strange, terrible connection to. There was no latch, no keyhole, no visible mechanism, and the box seemed impossibly smooth, as if it had been polished for centuries by hands not of this world. It was cold to the touch, an unnatural coldness that seemed to seep into his bones, and when he tried to pick it up, it felt oddly heavy, as if it contained something far denser than its size would suggest, something that was pulling him towards the earth, anchoring him to this place, forever. He knew that it held the key to the strange happenings, the answers to the questions that haunted his waking hours, and he knew that he was destined to open it, to unleash whatever horrors lay within. He spent the next few nights trying to open the box, his mind consumed by a mixture of curiosity and a growing sense of dread, a battle between his rational mind and a primal fear that was slowly consuming him. He tried prying it open, using various tools he found in the lighthouse's maintenance room, each tool bending and breaking as if it was no match for the box's unyielding nature. But it was as if the wood was impenetrable, a barrier that no force could break. He tried to find a hidden latch or a keyhole, but the surface remained perfectly smooth, a mocking testament to his inability to understand the box's secrets. He felt an odd compulsion to try and break the box open, to destroy the object that seemed to taunt him. But as soon as the thought entered his mind, a sense of revulsion washed over him, a feeling of nausea and dread, as if something within the box was warning him against it. The voices seemed to grow louder, telling him to stop, but he had to know the truth. He had to understand the forces that were at play. He felt like he was walking on thin ice, each step bringing him closer to the precipice. Then, on the night of the 7th of November, 1967, at precisely 3 minutes before 3 a.m., as the world lay silent and still, the hum from the radio changed, the sound suddenly becoming more intense, more complex, as if the frequencies were shifting and changing, attempting to communicate with him in a language he did not understand, an ancient dialect that resonated with something deep within his soul, a language that spoke of forgotten gods and unspeakable horrors. He felt an irresistible pull towards the radio, a magnetic force that seemed to draw him in, as if it were calling to him from the depths of the cosmos, its dark allure beckoning him towards the abyss. He approached the radio, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch the dial, the cold metal burning against his skin. As his fingers grazed the cold metal, the room began to tremble, the very structure of the lighthouse shaking, the walls groaning as if they were in pain, and the air crackled with an unnatural energy, a feeling that the veil between worlds was thinning, that the barriers of reality were slowly breaking down. He found himself transported, not physically, but mentally, his consciousness drawn from his body, to a place that was both familiar and alien, a realm that was both terrifying and alluring, a landscape that seemed to shift and change before his very eyes, a dimension that defied all logic and reason. He saw the lighthouse, not as it was, a structure of stone and glass, but as a living, breathing entity, a towering spire of bone and sinew, its lamp a piercing eye that stared into the abyss, watching him, judging him, its structure a network of pulsating veins and throbbing arteries, as if the building itself was alive and aware of his presence, an extension of the entity he was about to unleash. He saw the sea, not as a vast, endless expanse of water, but as a living, conscious being, a vast, dark entity that stretched to the horizon and beyond, its waves crashing against the rocks like the beating of a colossal heart, each crash an echo of the approaching darkness. He saw the sky, not as a void, but as a gateway to other dimensions, a swirling vortex of colors and shadows, its stars burning with an unnatural light, each star a gateway to a universe beyond comprehension. And he saw something else, something that defied all logic and reason, something that made his blood run cold, a glimpse of the horror that lay beyond the veil. He saw entities, vast, amorphous shapes that seemed to be formed of pure energy, beings that existed beyond human comprehension, creatures that dwelled in the spaces between dimensions, that were older than time itself, their very existence a testament to the vastness of the unknown, that were reaching for his world, their hunger insatiable, using the lighthouse as a beacon, as a gateway into his reality, a point of entry into the human world. He felt their presence, a cold, insidious feeling that seemed to seep into his very bones, a feeling of dread that was far worse than fear, a sense of cosmic horror that threatened to shatter his sanity, and he knew that they were coming for him. He realized that the lighthouse was not just a warning to sailors, but a focal point, a nexus of power that was attracting these entities, that the radio's hum was not just a random signal, but a means of communication, a bridge between worlds, a call that was impossible to ignore, a siren song leading him towards his doom. He felt like he was drowning in the darkness, his sanity slipping away with each breath he took. The vision subsided, leaving him breathless and shaken, his mind reeling from the experience, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and despair. He knew now that he had to do something, that he could not simply ignore the reality that he had seen, that the lighthouse, the radio, and the box were all connected, pieces of a puzzle that had been waiting for him to solve. A game that had been set in motion long before he had arrived at this place, a fate that had been written for him. He knew that he was not just a lighthouse keeper, that he had been chosen for a purpose, a dark, terrible purpose that he had to fulfill, whether he wanted to or not, his destiny tied to the lighthouse, to the sea, to the entities that were waiting in the void. He felt like he was a pawn in a game he didn't understand, a puppet controlled by unseen forces, and he knew that he had to play it, he had to see it through, even if it meant his destruction. He returned to the wooden box, its smooth surface seeming to mock him, its secrets hidden within, its darkness a stark contrast to the light of the lamp. He ran his fingers across the strange symbols, their lines shifting and writhing under his gaze, and the radio began to hum louder, its sound resonating in his very soul, a constant call to the abyss. As he touched one of the symbols, a particular symbol that seemed to pulsate with a dark energy, the box clicked, a sound that echoed through the silence of the lighthouse, and a small, rectangular panel slid open on the top of the box, revealing a series of intricate gears and a small, circular dial, a mechanism of unimaginable complexity. The gears were made of a dark, almost black metal, a material that seemed to absorb all light, and they seemed to be turning on their own, without any external force, their movements an echo of the chaotic forces that lay hidden within the box. The dial was marked with strange symbols, similar to the ones on the box, and it seemed to beckon to him, its surface glowing with a faint, inner light, calling him to turn it, to unleash whatever was waiting within. He felt an irresistible pull towards the dial, a magnetic force that seemed to draw him in, as if it were the very center of his being, and as he reached out he could hear whispers in his mind, voices speaking his name, promising him power, offering him knowledge, but the promises were a lie, the knowledge a curse. As he placed his fingers on the dial, a voice echoed in his mind, not a human voice, but something ancient and inhuman, a voice that seemed to speak from the depths of the cosmos, a voice that seemed to know him, to understand his deepest fears and desires. The voice spoke in a language he did not understand, yet the meaning was clear. It was an invitation to join them, to become one with the darkness, a promise of unimaginable power, a warning of impending doom, a bargain that could not be refused. He knew that turning the dial would release whatever was inside the box, whatever horrors lay beyond the veil, and he knew that he had no other choice, that his destiny was bound to this place, to these objects, to the entities that were waiting for him. He turned the dial, his hand trembling as he did so, his heart filled with a mixture of terror and a grim resolve, and the lighthouse began to tremble, the very structure of the building groaning and shifting, the old stones creaking and cracking, as if the very foundations of reality were breaking apart. The lamp pulsed brighter, its light becoming a blinding intensity, casting eerie shadows across the walls, the darkness seemingly alive and reaching for him. The hum from the radio intensified, the sound becoming almost unbearable, and the air crackled with an unnatural energy, a force that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of existence. The small panel in the box flew open, and a beam of light shot out, not a light of the visible spectrum, but something that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality, a portal to another dimension, a beacon for the entities that were waiting beyond. The light expanded, engulfing the entire lighthouse, as the world outside was replaced by swirling colors, impossible geometries, and the echoes of forgotten horrors, and Thomas found himself transported again. This time not mentally, but physically, his body twisted and distorted, his soul fractured and broken, to a place that was beyond his comprehension, a dimension where the very laws of nature were subverted, where the familiar and the alien had become intertwined, where the boundaries of reality had ceased to exist. He saw the lighthouse, not as a structure of stone and glass, but as a towering spire, piercing the sky, a gateway between worlds, a conduit for the dark energies of the entities, a bridge to a dimension beyond human understanding. He saw the sea, not as a body of water, but as a vast, living entity, its surface rippling with dark energy, a mirror reflecting the chaos and horror that lay beyond. He saw the sky, not as a void, but as a canvas of swirling colors, a gateway to other dimensions, a realm where the stars were not stars, but eyes watching him from across the cosmos. He saw the entities, not as amorphous shapes, but as beings of immense power, creatures that were older than time itself, their forms shifting and changing, a grotesque parody of life, and he saw their intentions, their hunger for his world, their desire to break through the barriers that separated them from his reality, a hunger that could never be satisfied, a darkness that would never be quenched. And he saw his own role, not as a keeper of the light, but as a key, a catalyst for their arrival, a pawn in a game far greater than himself. His fate sealed the moment he had stepped foot inside the lighthouse. He was the bridge, the gate, and now he was about to release the flood, the horrors that had been kept at bay, and his world would never be the same. Then, on the 22nd of December, 1967, at precisely 6 minutes after 7 a.m., as the sun struggled to break through the thick fog, a fishing vessel, the Seafarer, noticed the lighthouse, its silhouette looming against the gray sky like a skeletal finger. It was no longer shining its beam of light, the lamp now a dark eye, but was glowing with an eerie violet hue, a sickly light that seemed to pulsate with a dark energy, a signal that something was very wrong. The radio on the ship was crackling with a low, guttural hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate in their very bones, a feeling that they were being watched, a sense of dread that grew with every passing moment. They tried to contact the lighthouse, but there was no response, their calls unanswered, their efforts futile. They approached the structure, their hearts filled with a growing sense of dread, a feeling that they were drawing closer to something evil, and they found the door wide open, a gaping maw that seemed to beckon them towards the abyss, the interior of the lighthouse silent and empty. But the silence was not peaceful. It was the silence that comes before the storm. The radio in the lamp room was still humming, its signal seeming to emanate from deep within the earth, a constant, unwavering call to the darkness. The wooden box was gone, swallowed by the void, or perhaps transported to some other dimension. The captain of the Seafarer, a grizzled old sailor named Captain Jones, his face weathered by the sea, had heard stories of the lighthouse, of the keepers who had vanished, of the strange things that had been seen in the surrounding waters, tales that he had always dismissed as old wives' tales. But now he knew that the legends were true, that he had stumbled upon something that defied logic and reason. He knew that something was wrong, that something terrible had happened in this place, and he knew that he could not linger, that the sea had claimed another victim, a soul lost to the darkness. He decided to leave, to turn his ship around and get as far away from this place as possible, his mind racing with unanswered questions, his heart heavy with dread. But as they sailed away, as they tried to put distance between themselves and the cursed lighthouse, the hum from the radio grew louder, more intense, its sound echoing in their very skulls, and the sky above them began to darken, swirling with unnatural colors, the stars shifting and changing in the sky, their forms distorting, their light dimming, the very heavens seemingly collapsing around them, and they knew that they had not escaped, that the darkness had followed them. Back in the lighthouse, now a gateway between worlds, a portal between the known and the unknown, Thomas was no longer himself, his mind fragmented, his body twisted and distorted, a puppet controlled by unseen forces, his soul consumed by the entities he had released, a conduit for their power, a prisoner in his own creation, his identity erased, his existence now nothing more than a vessel for the darkness that had consumed him. He was both inside and outside of the lighthouse, both in this dimension and others, his consciousness stretched across time and space, his mind filled with the whispers of ancient gods, the voices a constant reminder of his failure. He watched the world as it was, as it could be, and he saw the future that awaited, a future filled with chaos and darkness, a future that he had brought upon himself, his existence now nothing more than a living testament to his failure. And somewhere, in the void between the worlds, in a dimension beyond human comprehension, the entities waited, their hunger growing, their power expanding, their arrival inevitable, their influence spreading across the globe, the darkness reaching for every corner of the earth. The lighthouse, no longer a beacon of light, was now a doorway to darkness, a portal for the horrors that lay beyond. The hum continued, a constant call to the abyss, a reminder that the world was no longer safe. The game had changed, and he was now a player, whether he wanted to be or not. On the 12th of February, 1974, a new lighthouse keeper, a young man named Ben Carter, arrived at the lighthouse, a man full of hope and optimism, eager to begin his new life, unaware of the horrors that awaited him in this lonely place. He had been told stories of the previous keepers and their strange disappearances, tales that had become legends, but he dismissed them as old wives' tales, foolish myths created to frighten children. He had come seeking solitude and peace, a break from the hustle and bustle of the modern world, a chance to escape the noise and chaos of the life he had left behind. He was not expecting to find something else waiting for him, something far more dangerous than the solitude he had sought, a darkness that had been waiting for him for centuries. As he entered the lighthouse, his heart pounding in his chest, he saw the old radio, still sitting in the lamp room, its wires frayed and tangled. It was still humming, its low frequency resonating in his bones, a call that was impossible to ignore. He found a small wooden box in the storage closet, hidden beneath a pile of old charts, its darkness a stark contrast to the dim light of the lamp. It was smooth, dark, and cold to the touch, its surface devoid of any identifying features, save for the strange symbols carved into its wood, symbols that seemed to writhe and shift beneath his very gaze. He ran his fingers over the strange symbols, his heart racing with a mixture of curiosity and terror. And then, from the depths of his mind, he heard a voice that was not his own, a voice that spoke to him in a language he did not understand, a voice that was calling to him from beyond the veil. The radio hummed louder, and the air grew colder, and from the darkness, the entities whispered his name, beckoning him to join them, to become one with the void. The cycle had begun again. The camera feed flickered, resolving into the grainy image of a forest path, dappled sunlight filtering through the thick canopy. You could hear the low hum of the recording device, a subtle vibration against the stillness, the rustle of leaves carried by a gentle breeze, and a single, rhythmic click, like the steady tick of a clock, a sound that both grounds and unsettles, a constant reminder of time's relentless march. The date displayed in the corner read, October 12th, 2023. Time, 3:14 p.m. The resolution of the video seems to shift and waver, as if the device is struggling to maintain focus, at times hypersharpening on seemingly insignificant details, as if it's attempting to capture a frequency or dimension that lies just beyond the visible. There's a subtle shimmer around the edges of the frame, almost imperceptible, a constant visual distortion that seems to worsen as the story progresses, suggesting that the recording itself might be fragmented across time. Occasionally, a single, distorted word, Annalise, flickers across the screen before disappearing, barely a whisper. My name is Elias Thorne. Or at least, that's what I believe to be my name, the name that was offered to me, the name I heard whispered in the void. It sits in my mind like a borrowed suit, familiar but ill-fitting, as if it were a disguise. I woke up on this forest path about 20 minutes ago, with no memory of who I am, or how I got here. It's like waking from a dreamless sleep, yet the absence of memory is itself a presence, a void that echoes with 1,000 unspoken questions. A silence that screams with forgotten truths. My head aches with the pressure of 1,000 fragmented thoughts. A constant throbbing that feels like a discordant symphony, and a cold sense of dread is settling deep in my stomach. A heavy knot of unease, like a lead weight dragging me into the depths. My pockets are empty, save for a small silver locket, and this recording device I seem to be using. It feels almost like an extension of my body, as if it's an organic part of me, a prosthetic limb that has become indispensable. I also feel as if I know how it works, as if I had been born with the knowledge. That's my only certainty, my only anchor in this sea of confusion. The locket, when I opened it, contained a picture of a woman. Her hair was dark, pulled back into a simple braid. Her eyes, a piercing green, looked directly into the camera, her smile holding a trace of melancholy, as if she was trying to convey a message without actually uttering any words. A silent plea for understanding, a warning whispered across time and space, her expression shifting subtly as I focus on her image, as if she is responding to my gaze. The picture is not clear, as if it was taken through a veil of some sort, a shimmering distortion that seems to intensify whenever I focus too closely on her face. There's nothing else. No name, no date, just her, and the faint whisper of her name that dances at the edge of my awareness. Annalise. A name that feels both familiar and foreign. She is there, she is everywhere. I walked for what felt like hours, following the faint trail, the clicking sound of the recording device my only companion. A constant rhythmic pulse that seems to synchronize with my own heartbeat. A reminder that time is ticking away, and that I am not alone, yet completely alone. A haunting echo in the stillness of the forest. It's a steady beat, like a constant reminder that time is passing, and that I am running out of it, that each click is pulling me closer towards an unknown fate. I tried to turn off the recording device, but there are no buttons, no dials, no way to control it. A futile gesture that I had tried many times before, the same result each time. It just keeps recording, like an eye that refuses to blink, a witness to everything that happens, even to the things I don't want to see. A constant companion that is both comforting and terrifying. The woods began to deepen, the sunlight fading to a sickly green hue, the color of decaying moss, of poisoned earth, a color that stains the world with an unnatural pallor. It's like the forest itself is beginning to decay, and there is a growing sense of unease, a pervasive feeling that I am being watched, not by the trees, but by something else, something older, something beyond my understanding, something that moves within the shadows. Twisted trees seem to reach out with gnarled fingers, their branches scratching at the air like desperate claws, and their roots seem to writhe beneath the surface of the earth, like unseen serpents, a constant reminder that this place is not what it seems, that something ancient and malevolent lies beneath the surface. Their leaves are mostly dead, and they seem to reach out towards the path as if they want to consume it, as if they are trying to pull me into their depths, to claim me for their own. I passed 3 large stones, each etched with symbols I didn't recognize, yet felt an inexplicable pull towards, a resonance that felt both ancient and familiar, a vibration that echoed deep within my soul. It's like something inside of me recognizes them, even if my conscious mind doesn't, as if they are part of a language spoken by the very fabric of this reality, a code that holds the secrets of this place. The symbols are intricate, and each one is slightly different from the next, like variations on a single theme, a complex equation that I am trying to solve, each symbol resonating with a unique energy. The clicking seemed to become more urgent as I approached the stones, growing faster, more frantic, a desperate plea that mirrored the growing anxiety in my own chest, a warning that I should turn back. The camera focused intensely on each symbol as I passed, each symbol taking up the entire frame for a split second, the resolution becoming sharper, almost hyper-focused, as if the device was trying to engrave these symbols in my memory, etching them into the very fabric of my being. I stopped in front of the third stone, feeling dizzy, a wave of nausea washing over me, as if I was being pushed out of my own body, when something caught my eye, something that cut through the haze of my confusion, a fleeting glimpse of something that should not exist. It was a small cabin, nestled deep in the forest, almost completely hidden by the dense foliage, as if it were a secret that the forest was trying to keep from the world, a forgotten place where time seemed to stand still. It looks like it has been abandoned for many years, its wood weathered and worn, its windows dark and empty, yet there is a sense that it is not as desolate as it appears, as if there is something still living within its walls, an ancient presence that is waiting for me. I approached the cabin hesitantly, each step seeming to take more effort than the last, as if the air itself was becoming thick and heavy, as if I was walking through a dense, viscous fluid. The door, made of dark, aged wood, was slightly ajar, a silent invitation into the unknown, a beckoning hand that was both alluring and threatening. The hinges groaned like a dying animal as I pushed it open, creating a loud cracking noise that seemed to echo through the surrounding forest, a sound that felt both ancient and malevolent, a warning that I should turn back, a final opportunity to escape the fate that awaited me. The air inside was thick with the scent of dust and decay, a stale, musty odor that filled my lungs with a sense of ancient rot, mixed with a faint odor I couldn't quite place, something metallic and slightly sweet, like rusting iron mixed with overripe fruit, and a hint of ozone, a scent that was both alluring and repulsive, like the promise of forbidden knowledge and the threat of inevitable destruction. The walls were covered in old maps, not of this world, marked with strange symbols, similar to those on the stones, yet more intricate, more complex, a complex tapestry of forgotten worlds. These maps seemed to depict impossible landscapes, with rivers that twist and turn in unnatural ways, flowing up hills and into the sky, and cities that are not from this world, their spires reaching towards impossible horizons, a reminder of realities that existed outside the bounds of my perception, a glimpse into the multiverse. In the center of the room was a wooden table, its surface scarred and worn, bearing the marks of time and use, a silent witness to the passage of countless years. On it lay a series of objects, each seemingly imbued with a strange energy, each pulsating with a faint inner light. A compass that spun wildly, never settling on north, as if it were being pulled by invisible magnetic forces by multiple unseen hands. A tarnished silver key, its surface worn and smooth, with an intricate design carved into its handle, a pattern that seemed to shift and change as I looked at it, a living sigil, and a thick, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and brittle, its cover worn and cracked with age, a silent repository of secrets. There was also a small glass vial filled with a dark, viscous liquid, almost black in color, which seemed to writhe within the glass, as if it was a living entity, and a series of oddly shaped stones, seemingly random in their arrangement, but with an underlying geometry that I could not quite grasp, an ancient pattern that was both familiar and alien. They seemed to be emitting a faint, pulsing light, each one a tiny beacon in the surrounding darkness. I picked up the journal, its pages yellowed and brittle, and I felt the weight of the past within its pages, the weight of forgotten knowledge, the echoes of voices long since silenced. The handwriting was spidery and uneven, as if written in haste or by someone with a trembling hand, as if the author was struggling to keep hold of something, some fragment of sanity, some truth that was slipping through his fingers, a frantic record of a mind on the verge of collapse. The ink was faded and in some areas, smudged, as if tears had fallen onto the page, blurring the words and obscuring their meaning, as if the author was both trying to reveal and conceal the truths contained within these pages. The first entry was dated May 17th, 1987. It began, "They found me again. They are always watching. They want what I have," a desperate cry of someone who was trapped in a cycle of fear and paranoia, a chilling testament to his never-ending plight. The following pages spoke of experiments, of things that shouldn't be, of a pact made with something beyond our understanding, of manipulations of time and space, of attempts to transcend the limitations of reality, of dabbling in forbidden knowledge, of breaking down the barriers between worlds, the very fabric of existence. The writing becomes more erratic as the entries progress, as if the author was losing control, his grip on reality beginning to fray, his mind becoming fractured and broken. The word chrysalis appeared frequently, as did a symbol, a sort of spiraling knot that was identical to the markings I'd seen on the stones, and I felt a strange pull towards it, a sense that it was the key to understanding everything, yet also a source of great danger, a gateway to unimaginable power and destruction. It's almost as if the symbol was a key to understanding this whole thing, a gateway to a different dimension, a sigil that unlocks the secrets of the universe. There are also diagrams of strange devices, complex machinery with moving gears and lenses, things that don't seem possible, devices that seem to bend space and time, inventions that defied the laws of physics, instruments of creation and destruction. The last entry read, "The chrysalis is almost ready. The clock is ticking. There is only time left, and I am running out of it," and there is a sense of finality in those words, as if the author knew that his time was coming to an end, that the inevitable was about to happen, a desperate plea to stop the inevitable. There is a sense of desperation in these final words, a feeling that he was racing against time itself, against forces that he could not comprehend. I spent hours reading, the clicking of the recording device a constant reminder of my presence, a ticking clock within the silence of the cabin, a constant beat that seemed to amplify the growing dread within my heart, a relentless rhythm that was driving me towards my destiny. The journal detailed the construction of some machine, deep in the woods, something that seemed to be capable of, well, I didn't quite understand, its purpose both terrifying and alluring, a potential for both creation and destruction, a tool that could reshape reality itself. It talked about time, space, and things that were not supposed to be disturbed, of tampering with the fabric of reality, of manipulating the natural order of things, of disrupting the delicate balance that held the universe together, playing with forces that should have remained untouched. The author, who referred to themselves only as the Keeper, believed they were being hunted by something they called the Weavers, beings that existed between the threads of reality, entities of pure chaotic energy that sought to maintain the balance they believed was being threatened, ancient guardians of the fabric of space and time, merciless enforcers of cosmic laws. It became clear that the silver locket with the woman's picture was, in fact, a key, something that was integral to the process that the Keeper was trying to complete, or maybe to stop, its purpose more complex than it seemed. It was not just a key, but a vessel, a container for something else, a part of her essence, a fragment of her soul, and within it was a message that I had not yet deciphered. The woman seemed to be more important than I thought, not just a figure in a locket, but a pivotal piece of this puzzle, a key to unlocking the secrets of this place. Her eyes seemed to follow me as I read, as if she was trying to communicate something, her expression shifting subtly, filled with a mixture of sadness and determination, a silent plea for help. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood orange, casting long, distorted shadows across the forest floor, transforming the familiar landscape into something surreal and menacing, a world that was both beautiful and horrifying. I felt a growing sense of urgency, as if the clock was indeed ticking for me as well, as if I was being pulled into a narrative that was not of my making, as if I was a character in a story that was already being written, a story that was rapidly approaching its climax, a destined collision with an unknown fate. I found a crude map tucked into the back of the journal, leading to another location deeper in the woods, marked with the same spiral knot symbol, a symbol that seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, a beacon in the darkness. It was different from the other maps and was drawn with a very different style, almost like an ancient hieroglyph, as if the person who made it was an entirely different entity, an entity that existed beyond the boundaries of time and space and ancient power. I grabbed the compass, the key, and the locket and the vial and stepped back out into the forest, leaving the cabin behind, and with every step, I felt myself becoming more and more a part of this twisted, nightmarish world. The clicking of the recording device seemed to have intensified, beating almost like a second heart, driving me forward, a relentless rhythm that echoed in my soul, pushing me towards the heart of the mystery. The clicking was starting to grate on my sanity, like a hammer blow against my skull, a constant reminder that I was not alone in this twisted reality. The forest was darker now, the trees twisting into monstrous shapes, their branches becoming more menacing, like skeletal arms reaching out to grab me, as if the forest itself was trying to devour me. The path was barely visible, but I pressed on, guided by the compass which spun constantly in my hand. as if pulled by multiple invisible forces, by unseen magnetic fields that were distorting the sense of direction, by energies that were beyond my understanding, by the desperate cries of a forgotten world. I followed the map, which seemed to change as I walked, as if the path was morphing to mislead me, as if the forest was trying to reject my presence, as if the very ground beneath my feet was shifting and moving, trying to throw me off course, leading me deeper into its heart. After what felt like an eternity, I reached a clearing, a circular space in the middle of the woods, devoid of trees, as if it was a wound in the fabric of the forest itself, an unnatural space where reality seemed to fray. And in the center of the clearing, it was a colossal structure made of metal and stone, pulsating with an unnatural energy, an unholy fusion of science and magic, of the mundane and the sublime, a creation that defied the limits of human understanding, a monument to a forgotten age. The chrysalis, I presumed, the culmination of the keeper's twisted experiments, a culmination of ambition and madness. It was like a giant clockwork mechanism, with strange gears and pipes connecting to a crystalline core that glowed with a faint blue light, as if it held the very essence of time and space, a heart of pure, raw power, a source of unimaginable energy. The sounds of gears turning and liquids moving resonated through the area, creating a strange, discordant symphony, a song that seemed to resonate deep within my very being, a melody that was both beautiful and horrifying, the sound of a world being reborn. As I approached, I noticed the symbols from the stones were etched into the metal framework of the machine, and the same spiraling knot symbol was carved into the base of the crystal core, and every symbol seemed to be connected to the core itself, as if it was the center of a complex energy network, an intricate circuit that pulsed with power. There were also inscriptions in a language I didn't understand, but I felt the words resonating deep in my soul, as if I was somehow able to understand them without understanding the words themselves, as if they were a part of a forgotten language that was encoded in my very being. The humming of the machine was almost deafening, and it vibrated through the ground, resonating within my very bones, a palpable force that seemed to distort the very air around me, a wave of energy that threatened to overwhelm my senses. I felt a strange pull towards it, a sensation that I was supposed to be there, that this is where my path had been leading me all along, that I was destined to be here, a pawn in a cosmic game. The clicking of the recording device had become a rapid, frantic beat, almost like a scream in the darkness, a desperate warning that I was running out of time, a constant reminder that I was nearing the end. It was now almost unbearable, and the distortion in the video had intensified, as if the device itself was nearing its breaking point. I looked at the locket in my hand. The woman in the picture seemed to watch me with a desperate look on her face, as if she was trying to warn me, to tell me something I could not yet hear, her expression filled with a mixture of fear and determination, a silent plea for me to heed her warning, a final opportunity to escape my fate. The words, "Do not trust," seemed to have been etched into her eyes, somehow, even though they were not there before, as if her warning was manifesting in the picture itself, a desperate attempt to reach me across the boundaries of time and space, a final plea from a forgotten friend. I felt a strange connection to her, a sense that I knew her, yet I couldn't recall from where, as if she was a part of my very being, a forgotten memory that was trying to surface, as if she was my other half, a soul that I was destined to meet. It was like a phantom memory, a distant echo of a life I had once lived, a life that was both familiar and alien, a forgotten love. I opened the vial, and the smell that escaped was almost intoxicating, a strange mix of metal and flowers, and a hint of something else, something that I cannot quite place, a scent that was both alluring and disturbing, as if it was a potion that could unlock the secrets of the universe and shatter it in the process. It seemed to be drawing me towards the machine as well, a magnetic pull that was impossible to resist, a force that was tugging at my soul. The key seemed to fit into a small slot at the base of the crystal, almost as if it was designed to be there, a perfect fit, as if it was a part of the machine itself. Hesitantly, I pushed it in, and the machine shuddered, groaning like a dying giant, its gears grinding against each other, its framework vibrating with unnatural force, the entire clearing shuddering around me. The blue light pulsed, and the humming intensified to a bone-jarring roar, resonating with an unnatural power, filling the clearing with an energy that was both terrifying and exhilarating. a storm of pure energy that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of existence. The very air crackled with energy, and the ground trembled beneath my feet, the laws of physics bending around me. Suddenly, the world around me began to distort, as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart, the world around me becoming a swirling kaleidoscope of colors and shapes, a chaotic dance of light and shadow. Colors bled together, and the trees around me seemed to melt into the landscape, twisting and turning into abstract forms, like a painting that was coming apart at the seams, a world that was being torn down and rebuilt at the same time. I started to see things, flashes of images that didn't make sense, shadowy figures moving through the trees, glimpses of other places and times, of cities that were both ancient and futuristic, of landscapes that seemed to be from another dimension, as if I was being allowed to glimpse the multiverse, to see the endless possibilities of what could be. The sensation was both terrifying and strangely exhilarating, a chaotic symphony of reality and madness, a journey into the unknown depths of existence, a descent into the heart of the labyrinth. The past, the present, and the future were bleeding into each other, and I could feel it in a very real and physical way, as if time itself was losing its meaning, as if I was simultaneously existing in multiple realities. Then I saw them, the weavers. They were figures that shifted and flickered, their forms impossible to define, made of shadows and smoke, of pure chaotic energy, twisting in ways that defied the laws of physics, as if they were the embodiment of entropy itself, the guardians of disorder. They reached out with long, clawed hands, their eyes burning with an ancient malevolence. Their gaze seemed to pierce through my very soul, their presence a chilling reminder that I had disturbed something that should have remained untouched, ancient beings that had been watching from the darkness. They spoke in a language that wasn't of this world, a series of clicks and hisses that seemed to unravel my very sanity, echoing the constant clicking of the recorder, as if their voices were merging with the very sound that had been my companion, a chorus of madness that threatened to overwhelm my senses. The video becomes increasingly distorted, flashing with strange symbols, the image splitting into multiple frames before merging again, a visual representation of my unraveling sanity. It was as if they were the embodiment of the machine itself, the guardians of a reality I had no right to tamper with, the enforcers of the natural order, and their wrath was about to be unleashed upon me. A single word echoed in their hissing, Annalise, a word that was both a plea and a curse. I tried to pull the key out, but it wouldn't budge. It was stuck fast, as if fused into the machine, and I was starting to understand the terrifying meaning of the Keeper's last words, the terrible truth of his warnings, the inevitable consequences of my actions. The machine was working. The chrysalis was opening, tearing holes into the fabric of time and space, creating pathways for the weavers to cross over, the very threads of reality beginning to unravel, as the veil between worlds was being torn down. The weavers closed in around me, their shadows engulfing me, their presence becoming more palpable, their claws reaching out towards me, and I could feel them, their touch like a cold fire, their very presence eating away at my sanity, like a disease that was spreading through my soul. Then, just as they were about to touch me, I saw another flash, a different scene, a glimpse into a different version of my reality, a memory that was not my own. I saw myself, dressed in different clothes, a white lab coat, sitting in a brightly lit room. It looked like a sterile laboratory, with monitors displaying complex equations, machines humming quietly in the background. A sterile environment that was devoid of any life, yet filled with an underlying sense of tension. I was talking to a person who looked exactly like the woman in the locket. She was holding a similar device in her hand, a device that looked almost identical to the one I had found in the forest, and saying words that felt familiar, although I didn't quite remember them, as if they were lost memories trying to resurface, a forgotten language that was buried deep within my subconscious, a desperate plea for salvation. She said, "We need to start over, they're always watching, we have to keep moving, go to where the forest ends and the mountains meet. They cannot find us there, not yet. It's the only safe place," her voice tinged with desperation, almost as if she was speaking into the past, warning me of the danger, trying to guide me to safety, reaching out across time to give me a second chance, or maybe even a third or fourth chance. Or was it the future? Couldn't tell. The lines between past, present and future had become blurred, twisted, and broken, as if time itself had become a chaotic, shifting river. The scene shifted again. This time I was back on the path, the recording device in my hand, the clicking a constant pulse, echoing through the forest, a sound that was both a comfort and a curse, a reminder of the cycle I was trapped in. The date in the corner read, June 21st, 2013. Time, 9:57 a.m. The forest looked different, yet the same, as if the reality was subtly altered, the trees slightly taller, their leaves a different shade of green, a landscape that was both familiar and alien, a constant reminder that I was not where I was supposed to be. There were different markings on the trees, symbols that I did not recognize, symbols that suggested an even older history of this place, a history that stretched back beyond the bounds of human understanding, secrets etched into the very fabric of time. And for a split second, I saw my reflection in a puddle, and I had long gray hair and my face was deeply lined, worn with time and experience, a face that spoke of trials and tribulations, of loss and sacrifice, a reflection of a man who had seen too much. This was not me, not the me I knew, at least. Was it? It was like looking at a ghost, a haunting image of what could be, or what had been, a glimpse of a possible future, or a forgotten past, a chilling reminder that I was caught in a time loop, a prison of my own making. I didn't know which was the truth, which reality I had fallen into. I was back in the forest again, with the chrysalis still humming in the distance, a constant reminder of the danger, a looming threat that I could not escape. But this time I knew what to do, what I had to do, or at least that's what I felt, a sense of purpose that cut through the chaos, a clear goal that I was determined to achieve. It felt like instinct, not memory, a deep primal urge that was overriding my confusion, a feeling that I was part of something bigger, something that was beyond my comprehension, a pawn in a game that I did not yet understand. The weavers were still there, their shadows reaching out, but they seemed less solid, less powerful, as if the machine was now weakened, their connection to this realm beginning to fray, their power diminishing with each passing second, their forms flickering and fading. They were still dangerous, but I felt like I had a chance, a sliver of hope in the encroaching darkness, a desperate gamble against an insurmountable foe. I looked at the locket in my hand, the picture of the woman, and now understood. It wasn't just a key, it was a beacon, a fragment of memory, a reminder of who I was and who I needed to become. It was a vessel of her essence, a piece of her soul trapped in the silver, and by holding it, I was holding a piece of myself, a key to my own identity. I removed the key from the chrysalis, and as it came out, I could feel the machine groan as if in pain, a sound of tearing metal that echoed through the forest, as if the machine was weeping. The machine groaned and sputtered, the blue light fading, its unnatural hum dissolving into silence. The energy that had been contained within it, now released back into the world, leaving behind a void. The weavers recoiled with hissing screams, seeming to be pulled back into the void, their forms dissipating like smoke, their power weakened, as if they had lost their anchor to this dimension, their ancient fury dissipating into nothingness. The world around me slowly stabilized, the colors returning to their normal state, the trees ceasing to writhe, the path becoming clear again. Yet the scars on the earth remained, a reminder of what had transpired, of the chaos I had unleashed. But the clicking of the recording device continued, a steady pulse in the silence that followed, a persistent beat that seemed to mock my efforts, a haunting echo that I couldn't escape, a constant reminder that my journey was not yet over. The distortion on the recording screen had intensified, as if the device was breaking apart, revealing the underlying layers of reality, strange shapes and colors that did not belong to this world. I turned the device off, knowing that it would be the last time, and the silence seemed almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos I had just experienced. Yet the silence itself felt heavy, as if it was filled with unspoken questions and unanswered mysteries, as if the very air was filled with the echoes of my past. I still had no idea who I was or what any of this meant, but I felt a shift inside, a growing sense of clarity and purpose, a feeling that I had a responsibility, a burden that I must carry, a destiny that I could not escape. I put the locket back around my neck. The familiar weight was almost comforting, a small reminder of my forgotten past, a symbol of the path I had chosen, a connection to a life I was desperate to reclaim. The path was different now, almost as if it was changing with every step, with every choice I made, a reflection of my own journey, a constantly evolving landscape that mirrored my inner state. I followed it again, as if being pulled by an invisible thread, by the faint whisper of a memory, by the promise of an answer, by the yearning to find the truth. I didn't know where it was going or what it was going to lead me to, but I had to trust the feeling, the instinct that was guiding me, even if my mind remained a fog, even if the answer still eluded me. I had to trust the journey itself, no matter where it led. It was like an echo, an old memory that was just out of my grasp, a faint melody that was just about to reveal its tune, a story that was about to unfold, a chapter that I was about to begin. I passed the 3 stones, the symbols still marked on their surface, and felt the strange pull again. But I knew not to stop, to keep moving forward, to not allow myself to be distracted by the lure of the unknown. For now my path lay forward, towards the mountains in the distance. As I walked, the forest began to thin out, the trees growing farther apart, and I could see the mountains in the distance, their peaks piercing the sky, a promise of freedom, or maybe a different kind of prison, the end of one journey and the beginning of another, a new challenge that lay before me. The path was getting harder and rockier. It seemed to be going straight up, as if I was ascending to a higher plane, moving away from the darkness of the forest, climbing towards the light, but the shadows continued to follow. I was almost out of the woods, almost at the place where the mountains met the sky, the edge of one world and the beginning of the next. The recording device was still in my hand. I turned it on again, just for a moment, as if to give a final message, to record one last moment, a final testament to what had transpired. The date on the corner read, July 17th, 2023. Time, 5:51 p.m. I looked at the locket again. The woman's eyes, although still holding that melancholy expression, were also filled with a flicker of hope, a spark of anticipation, as if she was waiting for me to do what was necessary, to carry on with the mission, to complete the task that I had been given, a silent expectation that I felt deep within my soul. And then, I looked at the recording device again and I saw something I had missed the first time, something that had been hidden in plain sight, a crucial clue that was finally revealed. The recording time was always at the edge of the current timeline, always a step ahead, like a preview of what was about to come, a glimpse into a possible future, a hint of the path I was about to take. And in that glimpse was the secret of everything, a path that was both terrifying and liberating. It was as if the device itself was manipulating time, was a key to a different kind of reality, a tool that could bend the laws of physics, or maybe it was a tool to manipulate me and that I was being deceived. The camera seemed to focus on the date and time, as if trying to convey a hidden message, a crucial piece of the puzzle, a final warning. I could feel it, as if I was being watched through the device, and it was always one step ahead, as if I was always a step behind. I stopped walking. I knew what I had to do, or at least, that's what I felt, a deep certainty that washed away all doubt, a conviction that I could no longer ignore. I turned the device off, knowing that it would be the last time, that I would never need to record again, that my path was finally clear, and in that clarity was the knowledge that I was destined for something more than just a simple escape. I threw it as hard as I could against the large rock at the edge of the forest, a final, decisive action, a symbolic rejection of the cycle that I had been trapped in. It shattered into a million pieces, and the casing cracked open, revealing complex circuitry, strange components that looked like nothing I had ever seen before, alien technology that defied explanation, an ancient technology that had been brought forth from the darkness. The clicking stopped. The silence was absolute, a perfect, terrifying stillness, the absence of sound, a vast and overwhelming presence, a void that seemed to consume everything. I then looked up at the mountains and started walking towards them, my path illuminated by the setting sun, a journey into the unknown, leaving behind the remnants of a broken world. It was a long walk, and it was only the beginning, the first step of a path that was yet unwritten, a path that I was destined to walk alone, a journey that I had to undertake. The real journey was about to start. The screen fades to black. The clicking sound is replaced with a faint, static hum, which slowly fades away, leaving only the haunting sound of the wind, a whisper of the secrets that lay hidden within the forest, the echoes of a forgotten world. The final shot, just before the black screen, is a single close-up on the shattered pieces of the recorder, focusing on the exposed circuits, with the spiral symbol appearing faintly on one of the broken components, as if it was the source of the device's power, the heart of the machine. Then darkness. The silence continues, and a faint, barely audible whisper seems to echo in the darkness. He will be back, and she will be waiting. The static crackled, a discordant symphony of white noise that clawed at the edges of perception, before resolving into a distorted image, a visual echo of the fractured reality that was about to unfold. It was a close-up of a human eye, the iris a strange, swirling vortex of colors, a kaleidoscopic maelstrom of impossible hues that seemed to shift and writhe like living things, reflecting a scene of impossible geometry, a glimpse into another realm where the very laws of physics were bent and broken, where the familiar became terrifyingly alien. The reflection was not a mere reflection. It was a window into a fractured dimension, a place where the familiar became disturbingly grotesque. Then, the image pulled back, slowly and agonizingly, as if the camera itself was struggling against an unseen force, showing a dimly lit room, cluttered with strange artifacts and dusty books, a repository of forgotten knowledge and forbidden secrets, a prison of the mind disguised as a sanctuary of learning. A digital clock on the wall flickered, the digits wavering and distorting as if they were struggling to maintain their form, before finally displaying the time. 11:27 p.m., a constant reminder that time itself was fractured and unreliable. The date below read, April 15th, 2024, a marker in a cycle that had no beginning and no end, a constant echo that haunted the edges of reality. The camera angle was shaky, as if held by a trembling hand, and the focus was erratic, shifting from one object to another as if searching for something that was lost or hidden, a frantic hunt for something that was always just beyond reach. A low, rhythmic hum pervaded the audio, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep within your bones, a primal frequency that resonated with something ancient and unsettling within your very being, a constant thrum that was both hypnotic and terrifying. It was a sound that seemed to burrow into your mind, setting your teeth on edge and sending shivers down your spine, a relentless beat that was slowly driving me towards the edge of madness. My name is Dr. Alistair Finch, or at least that's what the documents say, the name that has been carved into the stone of my identity, a name that feels as foreign as a forgotten language, a label attached to the persona that is now mine, though it feels like a stranger's skin, a mask that is slowly becoming my face. I woke up in this room about an hour ago, with no recollection of how I arrived, the void in my memory as vast and empty as the starless sky, a gaping hole that has swallowed my past whole. The air is thick with the smell of old paper, the musty scent of decaying history, and something else, something acrid and metallic, like blood and rust, a faint, unsettling odor that clung to the back of my throat, a constant reminder of the violence that has come before and the violence that was yet to come. My head throbs, a dull, persistent ache that feels like a hammer blow, and my thoughts are like tangled threads, a chaotic mess of half-formed ideas and fragmented memories, each one tugging at my sanity. There's a coldness seeping into my bones that has nothing to do with the temperature, a chilling dread that seems to originate from somewhere deep within, a primal fear that was born before time itself, a feeling that I have been here before and that I will be here again. My pockets are empty, save for a single tarnished silver key, its surface worn smooth by countless hands, the metal feeling alive against my skin, and a small, leather-bound notebook, its pages yellowed and brittle with age, the words contained within a testament to a mind that was slowly being devoured by madness. The notebook, when I opened it, was filled with my own handwriting, a series of cryptic entries and unsettling diagrams, things that seemed both familiar and utterly alien, as if they were written by someone I once knew, or someone I am yet to become, a testament to a life I have lived, and one that I am doomed to repeat, each loop a variation on a tragic theme. The first entry is dated October 31st, 1999. It begins, "The veil thins. They are closer than ever. The whispers, I cannot silence them, a desperate plea from a mind on the verge of collapse. a warning of the horrors that were to come, a chilling prophecy that I am now forced to fulfill. I rose and moved cautiously through the room, the hum becoming more pronounced with each step, as if the room itself were responding to my presence, amplifying its sinister symphony, a constant reminder that I was not alone, that something was watching me, and that it was not benevolent. The walls were lined with bookshelves, packed with tomes bound in decaying leather, their spines cracked and worn, their pages filled with forgotten secrets, a library of nightmares that held the key to my doom. They were filled with titles and languages I did not recognize, languages that seemed to crawl off the page and whisper things that were not meant for human ears, ancient dialects that resonated with an unholy power, words that seemed to seep into my soul and begin to unravel it, turning my mind against itself. In the center of the room, there was a large wooden table, its surface scarred and marked with strange symbols and spilled liquids, evidence of countless experiments and rituals, a testament to the dark knowledge that had been pursued within these walls. On it sat several objects, each with an air of malevolent energy, each pulsing with a faint inner light. A brass astrolabe with intricate engravings, its dials and gears spinning in unnatural patterns, a tool for navigating the cosmos, or perhaps for tearing it apart, a device that was designed to break the very laws of reality. A glass jar filled with a black, viscous liquid, the consistency of tar, and the color of a starless void, its surface rippling with an inner movement that was both hypnotic and disturbing, as if something was alive within, watching from the depths. And a collection of oddly shaped stones, each one unique, their surfaces etched with cryptic symbols and pulsing with a faint inner light, a light that seemed to flicker in time with the rhythmic hum, as if they were somehow connected to the source of its power, as if they were keys to another dimension, or anchors in this reality, or both. There was also a stack of yellowed photographs, their edges frayed and brittle, depicting strange landscapes, places that did not exist on this earth, locations that were stitched from the nightmares of forgotten gods, and figures that defied earthly description, creatures of nightmare that seemed to writhe and shift within the confines of the image, as if they were waiting to break free. The air hung heavy with an unnerving sense of anticipation, as if something was about to happen, something inevitable, like a storm that was brewing just beyond the horizon, a cataclysm that I was powerless to stop. I opened the notebook again, my hand shaking slightly as I flipped through the pages, the paper feeling like dried flesh beneath my fingertips, each page a gravestone marking a step closer to my inevitable end. It spoke of experiments, of attempts to pierce the veil between dimensions, of a place called the Nexus, a gateway to other realities, where all timelines converged, a point of infinite potential and infinite danger, a place that was not meant to be disturbed by mortal hands. It mentioned entities that existed outside the boundaries of time and space, beings of immense power and ancient malevolence, cosmic entities that had been waiting in the darkness for an opportunity to breach our world, creatures of pure chaotic energy, waiting for the moment to devour all of existence. The more I read, the more the words seemed to twist and writhe on the page, distorting into unsettling shapes, the letters changing into symbols that I didn't recognize, their meaning shifting and changing with every glance, as if the notebook was actively trying to mislead me, as if it had a life of its own. There was also a repeating symbol throughout the notebook, a spiral knot with 3 interlocking circles, a sigil that seemed to vibrate with a strange power, a mark that was both a key and a prison, an ancient lock that had no right to be opened. The most recent entry was scrawled in a rushed, almost illegible hand, as if the author was racing against time, against a force that was closing in, a desperate plea that was laced with fear and despair. It read, "They are coming for me. The key, the nexus, the 3 circles. I must find the other place," a desperate plea for salvation, a final warning that I was now forced to heed, a desperate attempt to escape the cycle. I didn't know what any of it meant, yet I felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, an instinct that I was running out of time, that something terrible was about to be unleashed, and I was the only one who could stop it, even if that meant sacrificing my own soul. The hum intensified, and I turned towards the window, my gaze drawn to the horrors that lay beyond, a mirror reflecting the madness within my mind. The night outside was not as it should be, the familiar patterns of the world replaced by something alien and unsettling, a canvas painted with the nightmares of forgotten gods. The sky was a swirling canvas of unnatural colors, a vortex of deep purples and sickly greens, the colors of decay and madness, a swirling chaos that seemed to stretch into infinity, a reminder that the cosmos itself was slowly unraveling. The stars were replaced by an infinite number of eyes, watching me with a cold, ancient gaze, their pupils like black holes, staring into my very soul, a cosmic panopticon that offered no escape, a constant reminder that I was not alone, that I was being judged by something ancient and terrible. The trees outside were contorted into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like claws, as if they were trying to pull me into their depths, to claim me for their own. Their leaves whispering in a chorus of unseen voices, a constant reminder that this place was not of this world, and that I was an intruder. The air was filled with a low, unsettling whisper, a chorus of voices speaking in a language that seemed to unravel my very sanity, ancient and guttural, a symphony of madness that was trying to break down the walls of my mind, twisting the very fabric of my consciousness. And the whispers were not always the same. Sometimes they were kind, offering help, guiding me down a path, and sometimes they were mocking, as if they enjoyed my torment. I could almost make out words, fragments of sentences that did not make any sense, yet somehow resonated deep within me, creating a sense of unease and dread. Phrases like, "The three circles, they must be united," and "The key is your blood." And then there was a single name, repeated over and over, Alistair, Alistair, Alistair. I picked up the tarnished silver key, its metal cold against my skin, a chilling reminder of the reality that lay before me, a constant ache in my hand that resonated with the ever-present hum. It felt strangely familiar, as if I had held it countless times before, as if it was a part of me, a key that was meant to unlock the mysteries of this twisted reality, a tool that was both a prison and a path towards oblivion. I didn't know where it belonged, but I felt compelled to find its lock, an overwhelming urge that I could not resist, like a moth drawn to a flame, a desire to escape the loop, but also an awareness that the escape may be even worse. The notebook spoke of a ritual, a gateway, something that was both terrifying and irresistible, a promise of knowledge and a threat of destruction, a path that I was both desperate and afraid to take, a journey that could lead to salvation or oblivion. I felt myself being pulled by an unseen force, a gravitational pull that was drawing me towards an unknown destiny, a dark fate that was waiting for me in the darkness. And the pull was not constant, but it came in waves, strong at one moment, then fading away to a gentle tug. The rhythmic hum seemed to be guiding me, calling me towards something, a siren song that promised answers, but offered only madness, luring me towards the heart of the storm, towards the place where my sanity would finally break. I picked up one of the stones from the table, its surface smooth and cold, and held it in my hand, the energy emanating from it making my skin crawl, an ancient power that was both alluring and terrifying. A jolt of energy surged through my body, and the room seemed to distort and blur around me, the walls twisting and turning like a funhouse mirror, the objects on the table shifting in unnatural ways, their shapes and colors bleeding into each other, a visual representation of the chaos that was breaking down the very fabric of my reality. For a moment, I felt as if I was seeing into another place, a realm of impossible geometry and unsettling beauty, a dimension that was both terrifying and alluring, a glimpse of the infinite that was beyond my comprehension, a place where the very laws of reality were mere suggestions, and where anything was possible. I saw myself standing in a place of endless corridors, filled with forgotten relics and broken promises, surrounded by figures that were both ancient and grotesque, beings that seemed to be feeding on my very essence, their eyes glowing with an unholy light, and in that reflection, I could feel myself slowly becoming one of them. I went to the door, my hand hovering over the cold metal handle, the touch sending a shiver down my spine, the metal feeling alive, as if it was feeding on my fear. It felt heavy, as if it were made of lead, as if it was holding back an unimaginable evil, a barrier between sanity and madness, a final chance to choose life or oblivion. I hesitated for a moment, knowing that once I stepped outside, there was no turning back, that I was crossing a threshold that I could not return from, and yet I felt compelled to continue. I opened the door, and the whispering outside intensified, becoming almost deafening. a chorus of voices that seemed to be tearing at the fabric of my sanity. A symphony of screams and whispers that were all competing to be heard, as if I was standing on the edge of an infinite abyss, and I was about to be swallowed whole. The distorted landscape outside stretched out before me, an invitation into madness, a promise of chaos and oblivion, a path that led only to darkness, and I knew I had no choice but to answer, that my fate was sealed the moment I opened my eyes in that accursed room. I stepped out into the night, the silver key clutched tightly in my hand, the only thing separating me from an unknown fate, a symbol of hope and despair, a promise of salvation, and the rhythmic hum seemed to vibrate within my very bones, a constant reminder that I was not alone, and that I was being watched, a prisoner in a game I did not understand. The distorted reflection of my own eye in the window seemed to be mocking me, a reminder that I was trapped, and that there was no escape, a twisted reflection that mirrored the madness that was slowly consuming my soul. The path before me was barely visible, a twisting, winding trail that led into the heart of the unnatural forest, a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, a path that seemed to change with every step, a reflection of the shifting reality that I was now forced to endure. The trees seemed to twist and writhe as I passed, their branches scratching at the air like skeletal fingers, reaching out as if they were trying to pull me into their depths, to claim me for their own. Their leaves whispering in a chorus of unseen voices, a constant reminder that this place was not of this world, and that I was an intruder, their leaves whispering my name in a language that was both alien and familiar. The whispering voices became clearer, speaking my name, uttering phrases in the strange language from the notebook, ancient incantations that seemed to unlock hidden chambers within my mind, revealing forgotten memories and terrifying truths, fragments of the past and glimpses of the future, warnings from another version of myself, a desperate plea from beyond the grave. I followed the path, the silver key my only guide, each step bringing me closer to the source of the hum, to the heart of the darkness, to the inevitable confrontation with the forces that were waiting for me, each step a step closer to my destruction. I passed a series of standing stones, arranged in a circle, their surfaces weathered and scarred by time, each etched with the same spiral knot symbol from the notebook, a sigil that seemed to pulse with an unnatural power, a key to the gateway that lay ahead, and each stone seemed to resonate with the hum, their light pulsing in time with the constant beat. The stones pulsed with an unnatural energy, their light intensifying as I drew near, as if they were aware of my presence, as if they were calling out to me, a siren song that promised power and offered only doom, a tempting invitation to embrace the madness. I felt an urge to touch them, to complete some forgotten ritual, a compulsion that was almost irresistible, a desire to give myself up to the darkness, to sacrifice myself to the forces that controlled this place. But I resisted, knowing that something was not right, that there was something sinister at play, that I was being manipulated, a puppet on strings that were controlled by forces that were beyond my comprehension, and that I was being pushed towards an end that I did not understand. The forest began to thin, and the trees opened up into a large clearing, a circular space that was devoid of life, as if the very earth was afraid to grow in its presence, a place where the veil between realities was at its thinnest, a scar on the landscape that was both ancient and malevolent. In the center of the clearing stood a structure, unlike anything I had ever seen before, an aberration in the natural order, a monument to a forgotten civilization, a testament to a power that was beyond the grasp of human comprehension. It was a towering edifice of obsidian and steel, its surface smooth and cold, pulsating with an internal light, a vortex of swirling energy, a beacon that drew me towards my inevitable doom, a place where time and space lost all meaning, and where the boundaries of reality began to fray. It seemed to be both ancient and futuristic, a paradox that defied all reason, a testament to a power that was beyond the grasp of human understanding, a reminder that there are things in this world that should have remained hidden, a place where the very laws of existence were bent and broken, a symbol of chaos and destruction. This, I knew, was the nexus, the gateway to other dimensions, the point where all realities converged, the place where my fate awaited me, the place where I was destined to die and be born again. The rhythmic hum was deafening now, almost unbearable, the sound reverberating through my skull, and the whispering voices had become a chorus of madness, a symphony of screams that seemed to be tearing apart the very fabric of my being. a chaotic symphony that threatened to overwhelm my senses. I felt the key vibrating in my hand, drawing me towards the structure, an irresistible force that was pulling me towards the heart of the darkness, towards my inevitable doom, a beacon that promised answers, but only offered the horrors that lay within. I approached the nexus, each step feeling like an eternity, as if I was walking through a dream or a nightmare, my body moving on its own, as if it was being guided by an unseen hand, a puppet moving through a predetermined fate. The air around it crackled with energy, and the ground trembled beneath my feet, the very laws of physics bending to its will, a constant reminder that I was entering a place that was not meant for human eyes, a space where reality itself was a mere illusion. The structure was covered in strange symbols and glyphs, similar to those in the notebook, yet more intricate and complex, as if they were a language that had been lost to time, a code that held the secrets of the universe, a map to the heart of the chaos, a testament to a civilization that had fallen into ruin. I found a small opening in the side of the nexus, a keyhole shaped like the spiral knot symbol, a lock that was waiting for the key that I held in my hand, a perfect fit, as if they were meant to be together since the beginning of time, a symbol of both creation and destruction. The silver key fitted perfectly, as if it was meant to be there, as if it was a part of the machine itself, a crucial piece that was designed to unlock something that should have remained hidden. I pushed it in, and the structure shuddered, the hum intensifying to a deafening roar, the sound reaching a crescendo that threatened to shatter my very bones, a wave of energy that seemed to tear apart the very fabric of reality. The vortex within the nexus pulsed with blinding light, and the ground began to crack and shift, the very fabric of reality beginning to unravel. And then, I felt it, a presence, a being of pure chaotic energy that was watching me, feeding on my fear, enjoying the show. The whispering voices reached a crescendo, and I felt a presence, something ancient and malevolent, something that was watching me from the other side, a being of immense power that seemed to feed on the chaos I had unleashed, a cosmic entity that was pulling me into its grasp, a creature that had been waiting for me since the beginning of time and was eager to claim me for its own. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind reeling with horror, my body feeling weak and tired, as if all the fight had been drained from me. The world around me began to distort, the landscape twisting and turning like a kaleidoscope, the sky breaking apart like shattered glass, the very fabric of existence beginning to unravel, as if reality itself was collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. A chaotic dance of light and shadow that was slowly consuming me whole. I saw glimpses of other places, other times, other realities, flashing before my eyes. A chaotic storm of impossible imagery, fractured visions of a broken timeline, pieces of a puzzle that I could not solve. I saw my own face in these distorted images, but it was not my face. It was the face of someone else, someone ancient and malevolent, someone who had done this before, someone who was trapped in a cycle of unending horror, and with each passing glimpse, I felt myself becoming more like him, losing the last vestiges of my own humanity, and in that reflection, I saw that the man in those visions was not my enemy, but my destiny. I saw a vision of myself, in different clothes, standing before the nexus, holding the same silver key, pushing it into the same keyhole, a never-ending loop, a cycle of horror that had no beginning and no end, a fate that I could not escape, a constant reminder that I was a prisoner of my own design, a victim of my own past. And in that reflection, I saw not a single person, but an endless number of myself, stretching back into infinity, each one doomed to repeat this endless cycle of despair, each version a variation of my own suffering. And then I realized that all those versions were still trapped within this one, that I was not one, but all of them. Then, I was back in the dimly lit room, the digital clock showing a different time, 5:34 a.m. The date had changed as well, May 1st, 2024, and the cold feeling that had been with me since the beginning now intensified, seeping deeper into my bones. The room looked slightly different now, as if something had shifted, as if the very fabric of reality had been altered. A subtle change that suggested that time itself was shifting and changing, and the feeling of cold dread intensified, a chilling reminder that I was not in control and that my fate was sealed. The objects on the table were rearranged, in a seemingly random order, as if the forces that controlled the room were playing games, the astrolabe spinning erratically, the stones pulsing with a frantic light, and there was an additional book on the shelf, its title written in the same strange language from the notebook, a language that seemed to hum with an unnatural power, the words writhing and twisting on the page. The notebook itself was open to a new page, with an entry dated November 21st, 1999, that read, "The loop is tightening. The nexus calls. The key turns again. They are always here," a chilling confession from a version of myself that had fallen deeper into the madness, a warning from beyond the veil, a reminder that I was not alone in my suffering, and that I was never truly free. The cycle was repeating again, as it always did, as it always will. I looked down at the silver key in my hand. It was warm now, as if it had absorbed some of the energy from the nexus, as if it was a living thing that had been feeding on the chaos I had unleashed, as if it had taken something from me, as if it had grown stronger at the cost of my own existence. I felt a strange compulsion, an urge to go back, to return to that place of chaos and madness, as if I was drawn to it by an irresistible force, a desire to break free, yet knowing that it was a trap, a never-ending nightmare that I could never escape, as if I was drawn to the place where I would finally be destroyed. I picked up the stone from the table again, and the room began to distort, the walls melting, the objects shifting and changing, a chaotic dance of light and shadow, a reminder that my reality was nothing more than a fragile illusion. And then, for a split second, I saw what the other place was. It was not a different place, but it was the same place, twisted and warped by the chaos, another version of the room, where the walls were covered in strange symbols, where the air was thick with a malevolent presence, a place that was even more terrifying than the one I currently occupied, a reminder that my search for escape would only lead to further suffering. I saw another vision, a glimpse of myself in another time, in another place, in another reality, in another endless loop, a constant cycle of horror that had no end, and it was a cycle that I was bound to repeat, a prisoner in a cage with no bars, a victim of my own ambition. I saw myself falling into the nexus and disappearing forever, my consciousness dissolving into the void, my body a mere husk, lost in the endless sea of possibilities, a testament to the futility of my struggle. And then I saw myself, rising from the nexus, the same silver key in my hand, ready to repeat it again, my mind broken, my soul lost to the chaos. I fought against the urge, but it was too strong, an irresistible pull that was dragging me towards my destiny, a fate that had been written long before my birth, a tragic narrative that had no escape. I knew what I had to do, even if every cell in my body screamed at me to turn away. I knew I had to return to that place and face the horrors that awaited me, to sacrifice myself in the hope that I could finally find peace. I went to the door and stepped outside, the cold night air sending a shiver down my spine, and my vision changed to a distorted view through a kaleidoscope, the very world around me twisting and turning like a living nightmare, and my sanity slowly slipping away. The forest was the same, but different, the trees more twisted, the shadows more menacing, a landscape of pure nightmare, where the familiar had become disturbingly alien. It was darker now, and the whispering voices were more insistent, pulling me toward my inescapable doom, as if they were the very threads of fate that were guiding me towards my inevitable destruction. And this time, they were not whispering my name, but a different one, Alistair, the key, the nexus, the three circles. I followed the path to the clearing, the key guiding my every step, an invisible chain that held me prisoner, a constant reminder that I was not free, that I was nothing more than a puppet in a cosmic play. The nexus towered before me, a vortex of chaos and madness, a promise of oblivion and a threat of eternal suffering, the place where I was destined to die and be reborn, only to die again and again and again. I walked towards it, my feet moving on their own accord, my body a mere puppet, my will completely broken, surrendering myself to the inevitable fate. I could see my hand reaching for the keyhole, the silver key trembling in my grip, the same hand that I had seen in the visions, the same hand that had done this countless times before, each loop a variation of the same tragic end, a cycle that had no beginning and no end. I could not stop myself, no matter how much I tried, no matter how desperately I wanted to turn away. I was bound to repeat this endless cycle, a prisoner in a cage of my own making. The screen fades to black, and the rhythmic hum intensifies, reaching a crescendo that threatens to shatter the very fabric of reality. And then it stops abruptly, leaving a silence that is more terrifying than any sound. Then, the image flashes back on the screen. The close-up of the human eye, the iris swirling with unnatural colors, reflecting a scene of impossible geometry, an endless loop of horror, a prison of my own creation, a glimpse into the abyss that awaits me. The digital clock in the corner reads 11:27 p.m. The date below reads April 15th, 2024, and with this, the image flickers back and forth, suggesting that even the screen itself is not safe from the endless loops. The cycle begins again, and again, and again, a constant reminder that I am trapped. The whispering fades, leaving only the hum, a constant reminder of the ancient evil that awaits, and a chilling silence that is filled with the unspoken promise of unending despair. A void that is filled with the echoes of a million lifetimes, a silent scream that can never be heard. And then, the faintest hint of a giggle, just barely audible, a low, malicious sound that is both amused and threatening, as if something is enjoying my endless suffering, something ancient and malevolent. And it is not a giggle, but the sound of laughter, a dark and twisted sound that seems to crawl into my ears and burrow deep within my soul. And with that, the screen goes black, and for the briefest of moments, the spiral symbol with 3 interlocking circles is displayed in the center of the screen, the lines sharp and defined, glowing with an unnatural intensity, as if it is a gateway or a lock or a key, before it finally fades to black, leaving behind a silence that is filled with dread. The symbol had always been there, hidden beneath the surface of the screen, waiting to be revealed, and now it has been seen, the final piece of the puzzle that no one can solve. The image of Alistair's eye, a prisoner of the vortex, appears faintly beneath the symbol before the final blackness.